It's harvest time, and right now we've got lots and lots of plums. These are Satsuma blood plums, and a tree yields heaps and heaps of the things. You can only eat so many plums fresh. After that, you've got to find a way of using them and preserving them. The system we use is the Fowlers Vacola system. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with this, but it uses a glass bottle, a rubber ring and a lid. Now these are stainless steel lids. You can get them that are not stainless steel, but I prefer the stainless steel because they're going to last basically forever. The lid is only held on with the ring on there by the process of the vacuum, when the bottle has been heated and then cooled down the vacuum. So if anything goes wrong, if they're not keeping properly, the lid will actually pop off and it will leak, so you know straight away that they're not right. But what I want to do is show you the process that I use in bottling plums, and most fruit is the same. I've washed these plums and going now to just cut them, taking the stone out. It's a slow process. It takes probably an hour to fill a pot like that. You might wonder why I'm wearing gloves. If you don't wear gloves, these plums will stain your fingers, and you'll have black hands for quite a few weeks, I've found, by my experience, which wasn't a good one. So it's better to have black hands now and wear gloves while you're actually in the process of cutting and stoning your plums. Now, Piccola will tell you in their instructions that you can put the plums straight raw into the bottle, and you certainly can do this. If you do that, you're going to then have to add liquid, whether it's water or a syrup, sugar syrup or something like that, to the plums. Now, if you add water, it's going to reduce your flavour. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got lots of plums. I want a bottle of plums, not water. So I fill the pot and simply partially cook it so that the juice comes out of probably 50% of the plums. You've got plums then to a nice amount of juice, and I then put that into the bottles. So we'll get to that shortly and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, my pot's full. I'm going to add a small amount of water. This is water, filtered water coming in. Simply enough to stop it burning. Probably this size pot is less than half a litre. These plums I won't add any sweetening, they're nice and ripe. They will be quite adequately sweet when they're cooked. So that's going to go on the stove now. It's time to prepare the bottles. With the Piccola system, you don't need to sterilise the bottles. You simply need to wash them well with soap and water, detergent, and then rinse them so they're nice and clean. Now these bottles are called number 27. The Piccola system has numbers to each bottle. They're a 3-inch top. Really, the 4-inch top, which is a wider bottle, is much to be preferred to this because it's a lot easier to get your fruit into. There's a lot of these around, however, that you can buy second hand. People don't really want these, so they're actually cheaper and easier to get. They just take a little bit more effort to get your fruit in. Much easier if you're actually putting in the fruit that's partially cooked, like I do with these, than if you're trying to put uncooked raw fruit into them, because you can't get your hand down there to actually push it in tight. So I'm going to wash these bottles up now and wash the lids. Also the rings, the rubber ring, which is the perishable component in the Piccola system, they go on easier if they've been soaked in some hot water for a little while. Now I do reuse rings if they are in a reasonable quality. If they look to be perished in any way, I discard them. These look to be fine, so I'll reuse them. Now the final stage of preparing the bottles, once you've washed them, is to get the rubber rings on. This ring goes into a little groove around the top, and it needs to be stretched on, and it needs to be exactly even all the way around, and not rolled. I'll bring one over so you can see closely, but it should show a nice even surface. It's very easy to roll it uneven, and if it's uneven you won't actually get the vacuum seal. So that takes a bit of care. Major reason I'm wearing glasses, so that I can actually see that this is done right. The mistake here means that I don't get a successful bottle. You can still buy Vacola bottles and all the supplies for them brand new, but if you're wanting to do it, look around for some second-hand bottles. Second-hand bottles save you a lot of money. You usually buy them around about $2 each. Sometimes you can often find people who will give them to you because they simply don't want to use them anymore. People get lazy and they just buy food from the supermarket instead of putting some effort into preservation. But if you're into self-reliant living, you grow food, gardens, fruit trees, you've got to learn to preserve food. It's the key to making it work, because otherwise you have a massive amount of waste and then you end up going and buying it from the supermarket again. Fruit trees come in one big crop and then they're gone. So preservation is the key. Bottling gives you a nice juicy result. Drying, of course, is another method of preservation that is well worthwhile, but of course the end product is quite different to the bottled fruit. Okay, they've all got their rings on. I'm now ready to start the process of getting the plums into the bottles. Now I've brought you over here to show you the pot. I've just turned it off. This is cooked to the level that I like to see, where there's juice coming up to the top of the fruit. So it's got plenty of juice. Okay, time to get the plums into the bottles. I use a ladle, and I have a special tool that I made myself, simply the whole saw, cutting out a piece of timber and a dowel that actually fits down into the bottle to allow me to actually make sure that I get the air out of what I put in there and push it down tight. With the 4-inch bottles, the larger ones, I can actually fit the ladle in and push it with the ladle. With these, I need this special pushing tool. So worthwhile making one of those if you're going to do this. Now try and get plenty of juice into the bottom. Definitely recommend doing this at the sink or somewhere similar, because it is messy and you will need to do a bit of cleaning up afterwards. As I say, the 4-inch bottles are far to be preferred because things go in a lot easier and it actually fits a lot better. So this is filling very nicely. There's plenty of juice here now. These are sort of about 3/4 plums. Now this is the point where I'm just giving a little bit of a push down. Try and get the sure there's not too much air, and a little bit of juice on top. It's a good idea. Leaving about, well, for colour, say 1/2 inch. I often leave less than 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch or something like that around the top. Lid goes on, and then you need to click onto that lid. These clips are simply used on the lid as a temporary measure to keep it down tight while you put it in the big processor to heat it, and it also keeps it tight when you take it out to cool, so that it's pressed down on the rubber and gains a seal. That's one done, 6 more to go. Make sure the rubber seal doesn't have any fruit sitting on it, or you won't get a proper seal. So give it a bite. So that's clean. Okay, this is the inside the pot. You'll see I've actually double clipped these lids, which is not absolutely necessary, but I have the clips, it just makes them a little bit tighter. With this 3-inch size, this size pot will take 8 bottles. With the 4-inch size it'll only take 7. I filled the pot here for boiling the bottles with water to about 1 inch short of this little opening where the thermometer goes in to measure the temperature. Old tin boilers like this you can't actually buy new. The new ones are all electric, but this serves really well for us because it'll go on the stove, wood stove or a gas stove, what American style is propane, and works really well. Temperature wise, we now need to, I put cold water in there by the way, I now need to bring it up to 92 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, that's around about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It takes a while to do that, probably close to an hour, and it then needs to hold that temperature for 45 minutes. If you used larger bottles, the really big ones, it needs to be an hour. But I'll put the lid on now and we'll boil it up, keep it at 92 for 45 minutes, and then it'll be ready to take out. Okay, this has now been at temperature for 45 minutes and it's time to take the bottles out. Now, to take them out, we use these little pitchers. They're not the actual Fowlers tool. Fowlers Vacola do make a special tool for this, but the bottles, as you might imagine, are very hot, so you need something to hang onto them. We're going to turn the stove off, take the thermometer out, take the lid off. Now, of course, it isn't boiling, it's just short of boiling, but it's still rather hot. Now, lifting them out, be careful, you don't want to drop these things, that would be a disaster. The lifting technique I find is with the clips to actually make sure that you get underneath the clips so it can't slip. And now, bring it over here and let you see closer. That's the bottle, still steam coming off, and some bubbles coming out in there. Very, very hot. Quickly lift those all out now. Okay, now Piccola recommend that you actually press down on these lids to make sure that they're tight. I don't think it's quite so necessary when you've got the double clips on like I have because I think it keeps plenty of pressure. Now they need to sit for around about 12 hours to cool. During that cooling process, it will really suck down on these lids and pull the vacuum so that they're these bottles have now sat overnight and cooled right down, so it's time to remove the clips and find out how successful we've been. The clips simply slide off nicely, and the first thing I do then is actually to test the seal. As you'll recall, this lid is held on simply by the vacuum created when the bottle cools. If that vacuum has been successful, you can't pull the lid off. And that's good, you can't pull it off. If they had failed, you'll be able to pull those lids off quite simply. If it does fail at any time during the time of preservation, that lid would pop and it would leak. These will now keep for a year very easily. I've seen them even much longer than that, 2 or 3 years, but probably 1 year to 18 months is advisable. Doing them this way, they don't look as pretty as if you actually put the raw fruit in and added water or syrup, but this way I know that what I've got in the bottle is plum, and when you've got lots and lots of plums like we've had, you don't want to be bottling water, you want to be bottling plums. So anyway, that's the Fowlers Vacola process. It's fairly simple and the result is good because it's only got the single energy input in putting it on the stove and boiling them up. It's unlike freezing where you've got to have continual energy, which is just not an option when you have solar power. So if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to see more.